Another supernatural zombie movie is coming in 2026 with all the actors from the local top idol group. Their looks are attractive and the acting is impeccable. It seems that it will surpass the once popular zombie movie, Zombie School. The movie starts with a big surprise. A terrible zombie virus suddenly spreads in a famous university in Bangkok, Thailand. As the number of infected people increases, the entire campus quickly plunges into chaos. A few survivors try to escape, but the limited ways are blocked by zombies. They can only hide in the enclosed classroom, somehow clinging to life. Student Aning desperately calls her teacher. Her mother is bedridden. There is no way to escape. Aning can only ask a professor outside the school to take care of her mother. Outside the corridor, zombies are frantically banging on doors and windows. The girl has to put down the phone. Just then, the news came on the TV. The authorities had officially declared a state of emergency in Bangkok, and the source of the outbreak was Aning's university. The professor's brow furrowed. He frowned and silently entered the bedroom, opened the tin box of strange medicine on the table, then looked at Aning's mother, who was lost in thought. Another group of survivors, who had been hiding in the classroom, were trying to block the door and hold the woman in the hat. Suddenly, someone looked out the window and motioned for everyone to hide on the balcony. Screams echoed from the school playground, making everyone's hearts race. The showman boy looked away and saw people climbing onto the balcony of the school building opposite, including a familiar face. He immediately dialed the number. Aning had no idea that his younger brother Aning would be right across the street. Suddenly, someone fell from the tall building, startling everyone. Calming himself down, Ajin took the phone from Aning. He told everyone to try to escape to the library, which was under renovation and shouldn't be crowded. The surviving children on the balcony discussed and decided that the library was actually the best place to hide because fewer zombies meant fewer zombies, but the library was quite far away, and they had to constantly dodge zombies, which made their progress very slow. The long-haired Xiaomi kept calling, worried about her father who was outside the school. Yashang Mao snatched the phone and said, "Calling now is suicide." However, they quickly realized that the zombies had surrounded them, and it was impossible to climb the balcony. The curly-haired Xiaomi took out a Bluetooth speaker from her bag and proposed to place it in the building opposite to distract the zombies. This plan was unanimously accepted, but when asked who would place the speaker, everyone silently lowered their heads. Yashang Mao couldn't help but roll their eyes. "Since none of you want to do it, I'll take the risk myself." The boys stood there in shame, watching Yashang Mao slowly walk along the wall with the speaker in his hand. Everyone clenched their fists in fear. Only the short-haired girl took out her phone. It turned out, the government had just announced that they had decided to cut off the water, electricity, and communication systems in the affected areas due to the out-of-control epidemic. Everyone couldn't help but curse in their hearts. Does the authorities have any motive? At this moment, the girl in the hat had already reached the very middle of the lobby of the education building. This position was enough to scare away the zombies. The girl carefully placed the speaker on the ground. As soon as she pressed the switch, a startup beep suddenly sounded from inside. The girl in the hat was so scared that she fell to the ground. She looked around, and fortunately, there was still no movement in the vicinity. As soon as the woman breathed a sigh of relief, a zombie appeared on the balcony on the second floor. Compared to the frequent incidents here, Aning and her group were much luckier. Except for the girl with the ponytail who accidentally sprained her ankle, everyone else was quite cheerful because they had already understood the zombies' preferences. Not only are they very sensitive to sound, but they also like to come close to light sources. As long as Aning and her group were traveling in the dark, avoiding the streetlights, the zombies would usually not find them. However, the girl with the sprained ankle, the ponytail girl, was seriously slowing down their pace, and the noise she made alerted the zombies. Everyone stood still, not daring to breathe. Meanwhile, the girl with the hat down made sure that the zombies on the second floor had not noticed her. Then, wiping the cold sweat from her forehead, she quickly returned to the balcony and joined her companions. The curly-haired girl, who had been waiting for a while, immediately turned on the music player on her phone, and a loud sound like a lock was heard from the Bluetooth speaker. There was a sound like thunder, and the zombies rushed towards the speaker in droves like sharks smelling blood. Now, not only them, but even Aning's group had a chance to catch their breath. Both groups quickly ran towards the library, but the braided girl was so tired that she couldn't walk. The girl in the middle quickly sat down to pick her up, and just then, a drop of blood fell from the sky. Unexpectedly, a zombie was hanging from a tree. The girl in the middle picked up the girl in the braids and ran as fast as she could, but she couldn't keep up. Soon, the zombie fell from the tree and jumped on her. Just when the girl in the braids was about to be in danger, the boy in the middle kicked a zombie, but the next moment the zombie jumped up and bit the girl's ankle. At this moment, other zombies came running after hearing the noise. A few boys quickly turned around and pulled the boy in the middle, who was about to fall. So the girl in the ponytail was alone, facing the zombie group. Just then, the boy in the baseball cap met up with the others. Aning and his brother were finally reunited, and they couldn't help but share their feelings. The other boys went to close the door. It seemed that Ajin was right. There really were no zombies here, so this place was a wonderful refuge right now. Long-haired Xiao Mei tried to call her father again, but this time there was no signal. The short-haired girl reminded everyone that the authorities had already issued a notice that not only would the mobile phone signal be cut off, but also the water and electricity would be cut off. Everyone's hearts sank. Isn't this a classic scenario of surviving during a cataclysm? The rich young man Ah Sang proposed, "We still have to find a way out of here. Without water and electricity, we can't survive more than a few days," Ajin replied immediately. "If we go out now, our death will be faster. The only way is to call for help and wait for rescue." At this moment, the man in glasses came out with a radio in his hand, which they thought was abandoned by construction workers. The radio was continuously broadcasting news. The area around the university has been quarantined by the army, and the authorities will cut off the water and electricity at 8:30 tonight. They were urging survivors to go to higher ground, and military helicopters would be arriving there during the day to rescue uninfected residents. Everyone was suspicious. The officials seemed to think that their school was the source of the virus, but no one had noticed it beforehand. Ah Sang thought of the parking lot on the roof of the library where they could wait for the rescue helicopter. However, Aning thought that the news should be shared with everyone. Ah Sang immediately objected, saying that it would only cause unnecessary trouble. But Ajin strongly supported Aning's plan and insisted on watching the two fight coldly. He told everyone to prepare to die, because in zombie movies, whenever someone does something stupid, it is always the side characters who suffer. This statement was extremely painful, and almost everyone in the house felt humiliated by it. Only Aning ignored it and went to the broadcast room on the second floor. Turning on the loudspeaker, he began broadcasting the radio announcement, urging the students to go to the roof and wait for the rescue helicopter. His clear voice echoed throughout the school. Aning wanted to say more, but Ajin stopped him, who was also worried about causing more trouble. However, Aning ignored the warning and told the students to meet in the library, as it was the safest place on campus. As soon as he finished speaking, all the lights in the studio went out. It seemed that the process of officially cutting off the water and electricity had begun. The zombies gathered under the lights, scattered and disappeared into the darkness. The survivors, who were still fighting desperately in various places, looked towards the library, their eyes filled with a terrifying light. The ponytailed girl who had tragically died a while ago suddenly opened her pale eyes. She stood up as if to move and slowly walked along with the group of zombies. Meanwhile, Xiao Mei, who was in the library, still hadn't noticed that there was no signal, and her actions were only causing unnecessary trouble for her. The short-haired girl stepped forward to comfort her, but Xiao Mei scolded her and said that her father had a shop near the school gate and could not move. If she didn't answer the phone all day, she might have an accident. The girl in the baseball cap couldn't bear it anymore and said, "If you care so much about your father, then go and find him yourself." Then the short-haired girl stepped forward to protect Xiao Mei, and if a few people hadn't stopped them, the two sides would have started fighting. Only a Jin rushed over and gently comforted Xiao Mei, calming her down with a few words. Aning kept looking at him with this gentle behavior, and a Sang, who was sitting next to him, was almost bursting with anger. At that moment, a No rushed into the hall and motioned for everyone to look out the window. Through the night vision camera, they saw a strange scene. The zombies seemed to be moving in the same direction, together. Now everyone was even more shocked. They felt that the zombies in front of them were different from the zombies on TV. They seemed to be sharing emotions or exchanging information in some other way. Otherwise, how could they work so well together? Aning thought that it was pointless to discuss this matter now. They would have to wait for the helicopter rescue on the roof tomorrow, so it was better to rest and save energy. Everyone readily agreed, but since it was the first time they had encountered such a situation, how many of them could sleep peacefully? Before they knew it, it was dawn. A Sang felt that this was the right time, so he told everyone to split up and find weapons and return to the rooftop parking lot together at exactly 7 o'clock. After everyone dispersed, a Sang called a Jin and warned him to stay away from Aning. Although a Jin thought it was a provocation, a Sang mocked him for not knowing anything about Aning. It turned out that Aning had already promised the professor that the two of them were secretly researching a project related to Aning's mother's strange illness. Meanwhile, the other students were all scattered and searching. If you want to see the next episode, subscribe and like and stop by.